Welcome to the Deep Dive. Ready to dig into some fascinating source material and really get to the heart of the matter. We do the deep digging so you get the insights.
Today we're looking at excerpts from Sophie Lane, A Voice Unveiled. It's this narrative account really following the journey of a young singer. And it's about talent, sure, but maybe even more about, perseverance, support, finding artistry in unexpected places.
Yeah, this isn't just a list of accomplishments. The source material, it feels really personal, very emotional, which, honestly, you don't always find. So, our mission today, let's unpack this story. Figure out what made Sophie Lane, her voice, her whole path so impactful. And, what can we learn about talent, support, staying true to yourself? This one really grabbed me.
It really does. It lets us get beyond just like the career facts and into the why.
Yeah.
It sets a great stage for looking at how environment, struggle, validation, how all that shapes an artist, especially someone like Sophie, whose voice seems so tied to who she is.
Okay, let's dive in. Starting at the beginning, we're talking Leach, Texas. Probably not the picture postcard image you have of Texas, right? We meet Sophie Lane. She's 12, living in this pretty worn-down trailer park on the edge of town. Think rusty roofs, that kind of thing. A world away from any stage.
Exactly. And establishing that setting right away is so important. It tells you, okay, this isn't a story starting with privilege or, obvious artistic connections. Her routine even underlines this waking up at 5 a.m. to go help her mom, Joanne, clean a little bakery. So her childhood, grounded in hard work.
And her mom, Joanne, described as thin but strong.
Mm-hmm.
And her motto, wow, it says so much. You don't have to be rich to live kindly. That really lands, doesn't it? It speaks to this quiet dignity, finding strength even when things are tough.
Absolutely. And you see that mirrored in Sophie's social life, or lack thereof. The source says she had few friends, got teased at Winslow Elementary, patched uniform, worn out shoes, just paints this picture of a kid who was kind of invisible, sitting in the back, quiet.
But, and this is where it gets interesting, the source gives this little hint. It says her deep eyes seem to hold unexpressed songs. Like, even then, there was this whole inner world brimming with music, just waiting.
Yeah, and that inner world needed to spark, right? Something to push it out. And for Sophie, that moment comes over the crackly school PA system one Monday morning. An announcement, Talent Week signups.
And the other kids. Predictable excitement, right? TikTok dances, piano, drums, all that stuff. But Sophie, quiet in class. The decision wasn't some big, bold move. It happens later, at home. She's done the dishes, listening to her mom's old lullaby tape. Then she picks up a pencil, writes her name down, quietly.
And the song she picks, Scarborough Fair, that's important too. It's the one her mom sang when she was sick, a comfort song tied right into that core relationship. And the act of signing up, the source details her hands trembling, writing her name on the very last line on the sign-up sheet outside the office. It wasn't loud, it was just brave, in a small way.
And boom, the backlash. Giggles, whispers, calling it a comedy act.
Mm-hmm.
Someone actually suggested she sing through a rice cooker. Just awful kid stuff. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. The source points out she heard it all, clutched her notebook, but she didn't cry. That tells you something, right? Even at 12, there's this little bit of steel starting to show.
There really is. And that strength gets immediately reinforced by her mom. Joanne finds her practicing a voice all shaky, full of doubt, and Joanne doesn't just brush it off. She shares her own childhood dream of being on stage. Tells Sophie that seeing her perform, that would be the most beautiful gift. That's huge. It's not just encouragement. It's like deep validation, saying, your voice, your dream, it matters to me. That's pivotal.
Right. So rehearsal day comes, Sophie's last. The music teacher asks about her backing track, assuming she has one.
Yeah.
And Sophie just says, no, ma'am, I'll sing a cappella. You can almost picture the other kids, the eye rolls, the sighs, like, oh, this is going to be something.
Yeah.
Low expectations.
Totally underestimated. But then she closes her eyes, starts singing Scarborough Fair, and the source describes this immediate shift. The room just falls silent. The music teacher, another teacher there, they just freeze. Her voice isn't big or showy. It's described as like a fine mist, delicate, but it just commands the space somehow.
And the silence after she finishes. The source says, nobody clapped right away. It was like they forgot how. They just heard something so raw, so real. It wasn't about technique. It was pure feeling hitting them, stopped them cold.
And that leads straight into this really crucial conversation. On the way home, Sophie asks that question, full of all the fear from the teasing. Mom, if people laugh, should I stop? And her mother's answer, it's like the core message. No, sweetheart, you keep singing because the world needs to hear the voices that have never been heard. Wow. That shifts everything. It's not about pleasing the crowd. It's about the value of her specific voice.
Which sets up the final school performance perfectly. Decorated auditorium, temporary stage. Sophie's look is such a contrast. Simple white dress, her only good one, braided hair, holding that notebook. It highlights, the lack of fancy stuff, but also how unpretentious she is.
And her mom's right there, even after working the night shift, looking pale but just beaming with pride, holding her hand till the last second. Meanwhile, you've got other kids with dance props, electronic drums, pop songs, mics, spotlights, the works. And Sophie, introduced simply as a solo performance without any background music. The source mentions murmurs, people pulling out phones, probably expecting, I don't know, something quaint or maybe even awkward.
So she walks out, legs trembling, lights are blinding. But where does she look? Right to where her mom is, in the third row. She starts singing Scarborough Fair.
A cappella. And her voice in that bigger space, the source uses lovely words. Gentle like wind, soft, unpretentious, but heartbreakingly sincere. The whispers die down, the whole place goes quiet again. That strange hush. Specific reactions noted: the music teacher puts her pen down, an older parent wipes their eyes. Her voice, singing this old, simple song, it somehow carried the weight of her 12 years. The source says lost, quiet, hunger-filled nights and unspoken dreams. Not perfect notes, but as the source puts it, just a child singing with all her heart.
And that second silence after the last note hangs even longer. 3 seconds. 4. Then the applause. But it's not just loud clapping. The source calls it full of reverence. It starts with one person standing, that older parent, then the whole auditorium gets to its feet. Yeah. Applauding as if to thank something pure. That phrase, thank something pure, it really gets you, doesn't it? It wasn't just for good performance. It was like gratitude for witnessing something truly authentic.
It really speaks to how that raw honesty just cut through everything else. And Sophie, standing there, gripping her dress, eyes shiny but no tears. She feels seen, the source says. Not as the teased kid, but as a young artist. That's the key shift. And her mom, standing too, hand over her heart, eyes red but smiling, her belief just totally validated right there.
And of course, that kind of pure, unpolished voice catches someone's ear, the right someone. After the performance, Clara Jensen comes up to her, conductor of the City Children's Choir. Turns out Clara was actually there for her own daughter's act, but it was Sophie who made her stay. Made her seek her out.
Right. Clara invites her to audition at her studio, mentions a special scholarship program. Suddenly there's this actual path opening up, a real opportunity because she sang. And Sophie's first instinct, she turns right to her mom, needs that okay.
And Joanne's response is just immediate, so powerful. Go, sweetheart. This is the voice the world has been waiting to hear. That kind of unwavering belief right in that moment, I must have felt incredible. It gives her the permission she needs to step into this whole new kind of scary world.
So the studio visit happens. And it's such a stark contrast to Leach, Texas. The source describes this professional space, acoustic foam, soft lighting, just a completely different vibe. Clara, who's described as maybe in her 50s, gentle voice but really sharp, observant eyes. She puts Sophie at ease right away. Calls the whole thing just a little adventure.
And Sophie in the recording booth, she's just Sophie. Clutching her notebook, simple clothes, no makeup. The engineer, Leo, he's a bit surprised at first, maybe a little skeptical. This is the kid kind of thing. But Clara just tells him, just let her sing.
And she does. Sing Scarborough Fair again, a cappella. Leo goes from surprise to just still watching. Clara's watching too, arms folded, but her expression softens. Afterwards, Leo's analysis is pretty spot on. He notes the natural talent. Even with no training, she stays on tempo, controls her breath, conveys emotion without, forcing it. He calls her voice real. Not loud, not perfect, but real.
And Clara connects that observation back to the song itself. Scarborough Fair, she points out. It's hundreds of years old, a folk song. She even brings up how Sophie described it, her mother's lullaby for dreamers. Clara suggests that connection, the way Sophie pours her life and dreams into it. That's why your voice reaches people the way it does.
Yeah.
It's not about hitting notes. It's about telling a true story.
Yeah, and that understanding prompts Clara to send the recording off to the Emerson School of Music Admissions Board. For this specific partial scholarship program for rural talent, only picks 2 kids a year. So it's a long shot, but a real one. And Clara's advice for the application. So simple, but so right, echoing her mom. You don't have to beat anyone. You just have to be yourself. Reinforcing that her uniqueness is her strength.
Okay, so fast forward. It's June. Sophie gets in, arrives in Austin for the Emerson Conservatory summer program. Historic building, prestigious vibe. The source calls it an entirely different world. And you can feel that.
Oh yeah, the contrast is immediate. Kids from big cities, years of voice lessons, performance gigs, designer clothes. And then there's Sophie. Old suitcase, worn notebook, no formal training, none of the polish. The source nails the feeling, like a handmade craft in a high-tech showroom. You can just sense the isolation, the self-doubt starting to creep back in.
Clara had given that hopeful speech at orientation, about seeking souls that tell stories, how the simplest voice could be powerful. But then reality hits in the classes: vocal anatomy, larynx, diaphragm, she's totally lost. Harmony class, reading music, fast struggle, nerves kick in, she forgets lyrics. It shows, talent isn't everything when you hit that formal structure.
Exactly. It highlights that gap between raw ability and learned skill, especially in that kind of environment. And those old feelings bubble up. Another student asks her voice type just a normal technical question, and
Well,
Sophie's honest answer, I just sing with my mom, gets these confused looks. It just shows how different her world is. Even another student, Eliza, is heard whispering, looks like they picked the wrong student this year. Ouch. It's a really tough, vulnerable time for her.
And this is where Clara steps in again, right when Sophie needs it most. Finds her on the dorm porch, feeling totally out of place, probably ready to pack that old suitcase. And Claire doesn't just give her a pep talk, she shares her own story. How she came from a similar background, felt just as lost and inadequate when she first started.
That's crucial. It validates Sophie's feelings, but also reframes things. Clara shares this quote from an old professor: technique can be learned, emotion cannot. Boom. That's the core insight, isn't it? Sophie has the one thing you can't teach. Clara helps her see that her background, her life, isn't a disadvantage. It's the source of her unique power, her emotional connection. It's her strength.
So the final solo assignment for the summer program is announced. Other kids are picking really complex stuff, Italian arias, big Broadway numbers, showing off technique. And Sophie chooses.
You Are My Sunshine. Simple, classic country song, her mom's song. The source makes that explicit connection to her memories, rainy days, bakery leftovers. It's a conscious choice, isn't it? To lean into her truth, her roots, right there in that high-pressure technical place.
And in rehearsal, she sings it a cappella naturally. Her voice now described as light as breath, soft as memory. And the effect. Even on the skeptics, immediate. Eliza stops taking notes. The instructor sighs not in frustration, the source says, but like being reminded why music ever moved them to begin with. Her simple honesty just cuts through again.
Which brings us to the grand finale, the Emerson final performance. Willow Hall Auditorium, packed house parents, but also talent scouts, journalists. The pressure is definitely on.
Sophie's wearing a light blue gown. A teacher made it for her such a small, kind gesture of belief. She has her mom's son pendant on. And Joanne, her mom, she's there. Took the night bus from Leach, simple outfit, carrying pastries and a embroidered handkerchief. The source points out how she sees the other parents in suits, but she's just focused, determined to be the first one on her feet for Sophie. Her presence is just this quiet, solid anchor.
The other acts come and go, polished, technically impressive, polite applause. Then Sophie's introduced. A voice from Lag, Texas, murmurs ripple through the crowd. You can feel the low expectations, maybe pity, maybe curiosity about this folk song act.
She walks out, legs trembling again, lights are blinding, but she finds her focus, thinks of her mom out there somewhere, and she starts to sing, You Are My Sunshine, a cappella.
Her voice, soft, low, and true, like a whisper straight from the heart. And the source makes this vital connection. Every word she sang wasn't just a lyric, it carried her life. Long nights without electricity, shared loaves of bread, her mom's tired voice singing lullabies. It was her whole story laid bare, vulnerable, making the song profoundly resonant.
And the impact. You could feel it. That silence descends again. People visibly moved, hands on hearts, covering mouths. Clara's eyes are shimmering. And then, the standing ovation.
It starts with Joanne, just like she planned. Standing up, hand over her heart, this powerful silent declaration. And then everyone else follows. The whole place gets to its feet. The applause isn't just clapping. The source describes it like waves. Tears are flowing. A journalist lowers their camera, just caught up in the moment. And Eliza, the girl who doubted her, she whispers to her roommate, I was wrong. That's a huge moment. Authenticity just won.
Sophie takes a bow. No trembling now. She feels seen. Not for being perfect, the source emphasizes, but for being real. It's the ultimate validation. Her journey, her voice, everything.
And the recognition comes swiftly after that. The very next morning, Clara tells her she has full admission to the year-round program at Emerson. No need to re-audition. Done deal. Her mom just cries pure joy.
And Sophie's first thought, her first question. It's not about classes or fame. It's, can my mom come with me? That says everything about her priorities, about where her strength comes from.
And Clara's answer is just perfect, sums it all up. If your mother is the reason you sing like that, she says, then I think the school would be honored. It's this beautiful acknowledgement that Sophie's art, her voice, is inseparable from her roots, her love, her support system.
The source touches briefly on her later success, becoming this renowned singer-songwriter. But the real kicker, the insight that sticks, comes from an interview years later. Sophie Lane, the star, is asked about the most life-changing moment. Wasn't a Grammy, wasn't a sold-out stadium. It was her mom standing up for her at that little elementary school talent show.
Yeah, she says, when no one else knew who I was, she did. And for me, that was enough. It just brings it all home, doesn't it? That first unwavering belief was the anchor for everything else, from the back row to the spotlight, from that overlooked voice to moving hundreds to silence. Her journey is just this incredible testament to being seen and staying true.
Wow. Sophie Lane's story, reading through this source material, it's just such a powerful reminder, isn't it, that talent, real talent, doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It doesn't always arrive polished and perfect.
Absolutely. It really underscores the value of authenticity, that realness, that connection to lived experience. That's what reaches people emotionally, often more than technical fireworks. Her background wasn't a deficit. It was the source of her unique voice.
And the support. It had to be the right kind of support. Her mother's absolute faith. Clara seeing the soul in the voice, not just the notes, and guiding her without trying to mold her into something else. They didn't try to fix her. They helped her amplify who she already was.
Yes, those aha moments are so clear here. Talent is tied to truth. Background shapes doesn't limit. Support means seeing someone's unique value. And ultimately, being seen, truly seen for who you are. Flaws, history, everything that's the most powerful validation there is for an artist, for anyone, really.
It definitely leaves you thinking, in our world, so focused on polish, on perfection, on fitting in, what unpolished voices, what real voices might we be missing in our own lives, around us?
And what stories, what insights, what kinds of beauty are we losing out on, collectively if we don't make the effort to listen past the surface, past the noise and the expectations, to hear those quieter, authentic voices that are just waiting? It's a really powerful question to carry with you.
Definitely a lot to chew on from this deep dive into Sophie Lane's incredible story.
Truly inspiring.